story time.
Spells, offerings, dark magic, demons, games, yes games, but not fun entertainment, but spiritual. Practicing it is hell once you take a curious step one without entering so that he pulls you against your will. Alice. You started to pay the price and continue what you started with your curiosity and recklessness. Let us see how you will survive, as a few have survived a few. But despite their escape from hell, he did not survive madness and self-perversion. So this decision is yours alone. Either you go to the link to those spiritual games at the bottom of the article, or you leave the site and never come back again. Suddenly, light appeared in the dark room. The girl sitting at her desk frowned, looked at her computer and complained, "What's up, Mom?" Her mother, standing in front of the room, still holding the door handle with her other hand, said firmly, "It's time for bed, Allison. Come to bed. It's past midnight." Allison frowned, turning her head to look at her and saying, "Okay, I'll close the computer and go to sleep." Her mother smiled tenderly and said gently to her, "Good night, my little one." The girl smiled and said, "Good night, Mom." Her mother closed the door after turning off the light again and went to check on her brother's rooms, while Allison returned her gaze to the computer and moved the arrow inside its screen towards the red rectangle loaded with details about those spiritual games. A black background appeared in front of her and several large red sentences with the names of the games, and under each sentence there were words, small size explaining how to play it. Her eyes eagerly devoured the words and the love of experience grew within her. Or, let's say curiosity, that which leads our lives to hell. She caught her eye and her pupils hardened at that toy called Bloody Mary. This game is of legend and tells of an evil woman who can be summoned by saying Bloody Mary. As you look in the mirror from 3 to 100 times in a dark room under the light of only one candle, and until you provoke her to appear faster, you say, "Bloody Mary, I killed your baby." Then she appears in the mirror, a frightening, terrifying woman with one hand cut off and the other holding a knife, wearing a white dress stained with blood. Her face is also full of blood and her hair is disheveled, and when she appears, she commits a brutal act that will end your existence from the face of the earth, like ripping off your face, cutting off your head, gouging out your eyes, crushing your neck or taking you with her to the mirror. And if she doesn't do anything to you, this indicates one thing. He made you crazy and stalked you until the day you died. There was the word "read more." I clicked on it and the rest of the article appeared, so I continued reading. After we knew the legend and how to summon it, who is the real Bloody Mary? There are many stories telling about her, but the most famous is that she is a young mother whose baby was stolen from her, causing her to fall into a severe depression that ended in her suicide. And when she committed suicide, she cut her hand with a knife, and that's why she held it. At the conclusion of our article about Bloody Mary, we will present the reason for summoning her based on the stories told about her. It may be boldness, curiosity, love to see someone dear to you, and finally see your future husband, or see the Grim Reaper. She finished reading the article with a radiant smile and her eyes stopped at only 3 words, the vision of your future husband. She did not care about the terrifying sentence that followed. Curiosity at this time, especially for lovers of the supernatural, is the predominant race and the aroused feeling. She felt her mother enter again, but without turning on the light, calling sharply, "Didn't I tell you to go to sleep? Or do you miss the days of sitting without your computer and phone?" Allison let out a big oof after the smile faded from her lips, closing her computer. She walked away from the office and flopped onto the bed, saying angrily, "Is this better?" The mother said, "Sleep tight, Allison," her mother said, then closed the door and went out to her room. She fell asleep in turn after checking on her children, while Allison lay down on the bed and wrapped herself in the covers. She closed her eyes, surrendering to the power of sleep with a smile on her mouth. Sideways does not indicate good. There were several nights that Allison couldn't do what she wanted. The presence of her parents does not help her implement it. Whenever he enters her room and she closes the door and is ready to do it, someone breaks into her room. But one night her mother told her that she and her father would come late to attend a party for one of her father's friends. She entered her room, locked it with the key, then turned to her office with a smile manipulative, and inside her she was almost flying with happiness when she had the opportunity. Destiny, opportunity to experiment. I approached the desk and opened it. Its small box contains a medium-sized candle, matchsticks, and she says comfortably, "My mother and father are not here and Jack and Chan are drowning in playing PlayStation. So let's say hello to Madame Bloody Mary." She finished her speech by lighting the candle, then turned off the lights in the room and went to the mirror, enthusiasm burning inside her to the point that it overwhelmed the tension growing in her heart. She stood in front of the mirror to see the reflection of her red face. She closed her eyes for several minutes to calm her mind, exhaling several times. Then she opened them and began repeating her name. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. She was silent after that, her eyes staring into the mirror, waiting for her to appear. A while passed and nothing appears or anything strange happened, so she repeated her words. "Bloody Mary, I killed your baby." Moments, just moments of anticipation until she appeared, her red dress stained with blood, her bulging pupils, her disheveled hair, her terrifying smile, the knife dripping with blood, and finally the non-existent wrist of her hand. Suddenly Allison felt, with her limbs frozen in terror, enthusiasm and curiosity had vanished. She felt restricted and unable to move, and her eyes were still staring at her. She almost recited verses inside her to reassure her heart, but her mind quickly worked against her body, warning her that this was an opportunity that would never happen again to see the expected husband. She took her eyes away from Mary and stared at her face in the mirror as she forced her mouth to speak, and her voice came out uncontrollably cracking. "Bloody Mary, I want to see my future husband." Her chest rises and falls with clear emotion and terror seizes her heart. She almost feels her limbs frozen as if she were in Siberia, wearing only light clothes. A moment. Only a moment passed until his face appeared instead of hers. Blonde hair, clear green eyes, a pure white face decorated with thick eyebrows, a thick mustache, a trimmed beard, and his lips curled into an attractive smile. She forgot the terror that was going on inside her and ignored her limbs to pay attention to his handsomeness. Oh my God, is this going to be her husband? She can't believe that this handsome man is going to be hers. Wait, is this my heart that started beating successively as if it was supporting her in her happy feeling? But in 1 second, the place around her became dark, and her body settled on the surface of her room. And the matter would have been fine, had it not been for that candle that had slipped from her palm and settled on the edges of her balcony curtains hanging on the floor next to the mirror, with its flame rising and catching on her transparent fabric. And with every passing moment, the flame in her room increased. It burns from every corner and corner. By sunrise the next day was Allison's body. She leaves her home and is more like bones than a mutilated body with corroded skin. Her father stands in shock, unable to comprehend what happened. Her mother was crying bitterly and her mouth was calling her loudly and oppressively. Her 2 brothers were crying with the anguish of children who had lost the flower of their home and their second mother. While the paramedics put her inside the ambulance and the police officers filled the garden of the house, they worked to find out how the fire happened. She extinguished it without the fire leaking out of the room. Please note that the bed on the floor of her room is the same as the bed in the hallway, but it is divided. Let us leave them searching as they wish until her case against an unknown person ends, and we hide that secret between us without revealing it to anyone, so that our turn does not come and we become a corpse of bones with some mutilated flesh.